Hey, what's up, you guys? It's your girl, Concrete Sunflower, and today is a little different. So, I don't have a yoga video for you. However, I decided that I wanted to make a video just opening up a little bit and kind of telling you guys why I started yoga, and then also just to explain my name, right? So, if you don't know why I call myself the Concrete Sunflower, by the end of this video, you should, okay? Just to start off, the first thing that I want to tell you guys is growing up, I have always been known as this like really happy, goofy, silly, crazy, friendly, just, bubbly type of girl, which I definitely think I'm still that way to this day. But I feel like that's mainly what I was known for. On the flip side of that, what I don't think people realize is that I actually did experience anxiety and depression, or what I like to just refer to as poor emotional health, throughout that entire time as well, right? So when I say entire time, I want to say that I started to experience anxiety somewhere between middle school and high school. And then as far as depression, I think I started experiencing that in college. And then after college, I had a few life situations that happened, which I will talk about, that I feel like just kind of caused my emotional health to plummet and go down, okay? So, excuse me, to start off with, the poor emotional health that I initially started off with was me going through what I call episodes. So I don't know what you guys call them or what they're actually called, but I call them episodes. So what my episode consists of is me literally crying uncontrollably, like crying, right? Hyperventilating in a corner, huddled up, don't know what to do. My body is physically like, I don't feel good. My hands are shaking. Just, it is an all bad episode, and I'm literally just going crazy. Okay. About things that really are unnecessary. When I say unnecessary, I mean like when those episodes happen, they were typically brought on by just like the smallest little thing going wrong, or the smallest little thing happening, and then me responding as if my whole world was then turned upside down. And now that I've been able to prevent episodes, I can see that those little issues, those little problems, are things that I could have easily fixed or easily found solutions to, right? Had I just taken the time to calm down and breathe and all this extra stuff that I've now learned. So I would literally go through that almost every day. Man, like I said, just about anything, the smallest little thing. So, man, sometimes I found myself just crying. I mean, like bawling, and I couldn't even tell you why. Right? So that was the beginning of, a little bit of the beginning of it. And then, like I said, it got worse after college, right? So the first thing that happened to me after college that I felt like contributed to my down spiral is in 2017, I ended up having 2 life-saving surgeries, right? So one in June and one in October. Now, the reason why I had to have those surgeries is because I did have a birth control chip in my arm. It was supposed to be in there for 5 years. I got it taken out, I think maybe a year or half a year early or whatever. But anywho, I got them taken out because I wanted more children. So I've always wanted to have 4 children. If you know me, I have lots of siblings on my mom's side as well as lots of siblings on my dad's side. So I've always wanted 4 kids, right? So I got the chip out so that I could have more children. I did ended up getting pregnant. I got pregnant twice, right? So once in June, once in October. Both of those pregnancies ended up resulting in ectopic pregnancies. And so then those ectopic pregnancies led to me having the life-saving surgeries, right? And during both of those surgeries, I had to have both of my fallopian tubes removed. So I don't have any tubes in my body. I'm unable to naturally have children on my own. If I would want to have a child like of my own, I would have to go through IVF, which is extremely expensive and is not covered by insurance. Or I can adopt, right? Both of those options are really great options. However, for someone that's just have always wanted to have their own children, being dealt the blow of no longer being able to produce my own children, the thought of never being pregnant again, just that kind of stuff, it sat in really, really hard for me. So I began to experience postpartum as well. So postpartum depression, anxiety, that's not a good mix, okay? So I went through that, and then shortly after that, and I won't give too many details, but I did experience infidelity in my marriage as well. So to go through the thought of no longer being able to have children, and then to also go through that, it was just really, really bad. And it sent me into this really, 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 really dark place. Like, I was purposely not eating. Man, I had some really negative, dark, negative thoughts. And I just, like, some days I couldn't get up. Like, it was really bad. And I got to this really, really dark place that I never imagined myself being. And it got so bad to the point where I felt like I was having an out-of-body experience, right? So I was literally on the outside watching myself go through these things emotionally, and through these episodes, and through this trauma and all this stuff. And I felt like I had no control over it at all. Like, I couldn't stop myself from going through those things. So that out-of-body experience, it really kind of woke me up and shook me a little bit. And it was just like, if it was any one of my friends, because I've always been the one, I feel like, when my friends would come to me to advice and stuff like that, which I love, because I've always loved helping people. Like, that's my thing. That's what I do. So to have that out-of-body experience, like I said, if it was any one of my friends, I would do anything in my power to pull her out of that state, right? To pull her out of what she was going through. So it was like, if I can do it for other people, why can't I do it for myself? And it's not that I didn't have people around me. I chose not to have people around. And I say that because I chose not to open up and tell people what I was going through. I chose not to open up and tell people what was happening around me and why I was becoming extra distant and all this other stuff. I chose not to tell people. So I didn't have anybody by choice. So I had to pull myself out of it. So once I got to that realization, it was just kind of like, okay, so you're going to pull yourself out of it. That's what you would do. But then I would find moments where it's like, yeah, I want to pull myself out of it, but I still feel like I have no control. I'm still going through all this, stuff. And then it got to a point where I just got tired of feeling like that, right? I got tired of going through the motions, depression and anxiety every single day on the levels at which I was experiencing it. I got tired. And so I got to the point where it was like, okay, you tired, so what? So now what? You're tired, so what? You know what I'm saying? Okay. And it was like, if I'm tired, what am I going to do? I got to do something. I got to do something to stop going through this. And like, yeah, that sounds all good and dandy when I first said it to myself. Like, that sounds good, self. You right. You tired, girl. You gonna do something. Because you ain't gonna go through this no more. You gonna do something. Okay, but what is you gonna do? No, but seriously, like, what are you? What are you gonna do? Right? That's where I was at. So I started looking up articles and stuff like that about dealing with depression and anxiety and all that good stuff. I came across a article about yoga. So pause, let me explain. I've never been physically active, okay? That's just not what I do, right? I didn't play sports as a child. No, I managed sports, okay? That's what I did. And I didn't like the idea of exercising and sweating and all that stuff. So when I first seen the article about yoga, I was like, yoga sounds like exercise. Exercise sounds like sweating. I don't do that. So I skipped over it. But the more and more research I was doing, I just kept seeing these articles about yoga, right? So this one article, I was like, forget it. I'm just going to go ahead and read it. And there was this one part that really stuck out to me. And it talked about how a lot of our emotions, our stress, our trauma, tension, all that stuff is physically trapped in our bodies, right? And sometimes we try to cry to release those things, but crying is just not enough. And I sat there and I was like, man, because I cry a lot thinking I'm getting some stuff out, right? But I still have these feelings in my body, and I still feel like crap, like shit. That's how I feel. So it was like, yeah, crying's not cutting it. We got to find something else. And so then it goes on to tell me about how a lot of our stresses and emotions and trauma and stuff is stuck within our hips. So I was like, you know what? I can do a couple of, hip moves or whatever, because really my ultimate goal is to get this extra stuff out of me, because like I said, I was tired of feeling the way that I felt, and I had a choice. We all have a choice. And I finally realized that I either can choose to let this destroy me and can choose to allow myself to go down this destructive path, or I can get up and I can do something about it. So I started off doing just hip openers, right? Really nice, slow, basic yoga moves. Nothing that broke a sweat or anything. And it started feeling really good. And when I say I started doing them like once an episode had happened, right? So after I got through an episode, or after I got through one of those crying scenes, or after I went through a bout of anxiety, I started doing it after that, right? And my body began to feel really good. And I was like, okay, I like this. Like, this is great. Okay, but now I need more, right? Because my body began to then notice what it felt like to not have stress and not have tension and not have those things built up inside of me, which was new for me because I had never experienced, what it felt like to not have those things in my body, because I just have always had them there, right? So to truly know what it feels like to be relaxed, my body then began to be like, okay, this is what it feels like when you're relaxed. This is what it feels like when you're, going through these things. And I didn't like that feeling, right? I much preferred the relaxed feeling. So I started then doing the hip openers and the yoga moves while I was going through an episode, right? So in the middle of an episode, busting out into that child's pose, and then finishing my tears and my things, while I was in that position or whatever position I chose that day. And eventually I began to notice how quickly my episodes would end when I got into those positions, right? How quickly I found release, or how I was able to bounce back a lot quicker than I was before I started doing these yoga moves, right? So I was like, okay, this is really great. Like, I like this. And then I got to a certain point where that wasn't enough. And it was like, okay, if I can stop an episode in the middle of it by just breaking down into, these yoga poses that are pulling things out of my hips. And when I say pulling things, like when we stretch our hip muscles and stuff, when we pull on that, we are releasing emotion and trauma and stress and all the stuff that is within our bodies. And sometimes we're releasing things that we didn't even know were there, or emotions and trauma and situations that we push way far back that we just don't want to deal with. We are pulling those things out. So to say, a lot of times I would cry on my mat. And that happens sometimes to this day because I still deal with anxiety and depression. So when I feel like a little inch of it coming in, I'm like, I need to go do yoga. And I go do yoga, and some days I'm crying on the mat. And I never want you to stop yourself from crying either. That's something I want you to release and let out, because crying is a way of releasing that. So couple it with another release and you should be, what I'm saying? But anywho, so then I was like, okay, I need to start preventing these things from happening altogether, right? So then I started doing yoga, like literally when I felt it coming on, right? So when I felt a little bit happening. And then after that, it was just kind of like, man, forget this. This is awesome. Like, I never want to have those feelings in my body that I had before. This release feels too good. This relaxation feels too good. So then I started just doing yoga every single day, right? And then as I began to do yoga or practice yoga every day, it began to teach me a lot of different things. Like, for one, yoga taught me how to love myself more, and how to begin to learn what it is again to love myself, right? And I say that because in yoga, it's very important that you learn to be gracious with yourself, right? As you're learning these postures, as you're learning these moves, as you're, learning how to perfect the different things that you like, or that you're wanting to learn, right? And so you have to learn to be gracious with yourself. You have to learn how to thank your body for doing what it's done. Allow to thank yourself, right, for coming to the mat, for coming to practice. Little stuff like that began to teach me how to love myself, right? Again, because you have to be loving and gracious at this, the same time. And then that taught me how to change my mindset, right? And I mean change my mindset by how to change the negative thoughts that I had and my negative way of thinking into positive thoughts. And I say that because it's very hard to be negative when you're being gracious. Negativity and grace just don't go hand in hand to me. So it then taught me how to change every negative thought that I have into a positive one, to change every negative thought that came into a gracious thought. You know what I'm saying? So that taught me how to change my mindset. It taught me how to change how I talk about myself and how I speak about myself. I made a status the other day, learning doing the back bend that it taught me to trust myself way more than I ever have before, right? And it did. It taught me to trust myself on different levels, because before doing the back bend, you know what I'm saying? I was like, am I going to catch myself? Am I going to land? You know, I might just fall and slip and stuff. And so it taught me that when I go to lean back, taught me to trust myself, taught me to trust that my hands are going to go where I tell them to go, taught me to trust that I'm going to land how I tell myself to land. My body is going to do what I tell it to do. And when it happened, it like a light bulb. It was so invigorating, that I could trust myself to do that. And that sounds crazy, but that's real. So yoga taught me a lot of different things. The physical aspect was never a part of why I started doing yoga, right? So it's become like a daily life tool. Like I said, I still deal with anxiety, I still deal with depression, but yoga is my life tool, is my coping mechanism that helps me get through. And the reason why I say it helps me get through as well is because, like, when you are being gracious with yourself on the mat, right, and you're learning how to breathe through those postures and breathe through the emotions and things like that, I am able to take that moment of me being on the mat and apply it to real life, right? So in moments where I can't bust out into a yoga move because I'm in a store, or like, whatever, I just can't bust out into a yoga move, I take the ability that I learned on the mat to quiet myself, to take a second to return to my center, to breathe through my emotions. And then that way I am able to respond properly to a situation instead of reacting out of emotions to a situation, right? There's a difference between responding and reacting. And so my goal is always to respond so that I get the desired outcome that I'm looking for, by taking that breath, by taking a second, by centering myself, by breathing through those emotions. And I'm able to get to that point only because I was once on that point on the mat, right? So I know that I can get there again. And so that's why I say, like, it's my daily tool. And so my goal is just to share that tool with as many people as possible, because I feel like we definitely need it. And the name Concrete Sunflower, my ultimate goal, right, like I said, is to help people. So a sunflower's job is not only just to shine bright, but it's also to bring the light out of others with its own light, right? So meaning that everybody around me is capable of being a sunflower. So my job as a sunflower is to bring that light out of me, which is in you, so that you can shine just as bright and you can go out and do the same thing. The reason why I refer to myself as a concrete sunflower is because of the depression and anxiety and the poor emotional health that I experienced. I feel like I've had just a bit tougher of an above ground to break through, right? So everybody has to go through the soil and grow through the dirt before they grow into a beautiful sunflower. However, because I had that extra weight on top of me, I feel like I had to break through the concrete to become the sunflower that I am today. So that's why I refer to myself as the concrete sunflower. My goal is to bring out as many other concrete sunflowers as there is in this world, because your light is worthy of being shed, and there's no reason for you to ever dim it. So that is why I started doing yoga. You guys are more than welcome to like, comment, share, all that good stuff. Other than that, I hope everybody has a productive and positive day, because it was already blessed when you woke up. All right. I'm out of here. Thanks.